All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in to this installment of the Who You Can Become series, Lead Where You Are. We're really excited to talk about leadership with you. Before we get started, there is a Q&A button at the bottom or side of your screen. If you have any questions that pop up, feel free to add them there and I will ask them at the end of the session. And if you have any questions for our speakers uh, or me, you can also put those in the chat. I'll be looking at both. Now I will introduce our student moderator, Jamal Lockwood. Jamal is a proud first-generation scholar from Gadsden County. His journey has been characterized by resilience and a unique perspective, having navigated life as an adoptee without allowing it to define him. Currently, he is immersing himself in the collegiate experience as a sophomore at Florida State University. The CARE program has played a pivotal role in supporting his academic journey, offering unparalleled assistance for nearly a year. His role as the president for the Undergraduate Studies Student Leadership Council has been an inspiring journey, allowing him to collaborate with a team of dedicated students with a shared goal to advocate and enhance the student experience at FSU. And with that, I will turn it over to Jamal to introduce our speakers.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Ms. JC, for that wonderful, wonderful introduction. And now I'm going to introduce our speakers for today. First, we have Mr. Tyler Price. Tyler Price is a director of clinical operations at SSM Health, where he supports the cardiovascular service line. Throughout his career, Tyler has held key leadership roles, including director of operations at Mercy and regional operations manager at NHS Management, overseeing healthcare operations across multiple states and facilities. Tyler is also a licensed nursing home administrator in Missouri, Alabama, and Florida. He holds both a Master's of Public Administration and a Bachelor's of Science in International Affairs from the Florida State University, where he was also a member of the varsity track and field team. Recognized for his leadership and contributions, he was honored with the Notable Knowles Young Alumni Award in 2022. Thank you, Mr. Tyler, for your time today. Next, we have Ms. Katherine Gibson. Katherine Gibson is a senior analyst at Spencer Stuart, one of the world's leading executive search and leadership consulting firms, and works in the leadership advisory services practice based in San Francisco. She collaborates with teams across North America on CEO succession, executive assessment, leadership coaching, and top team effectiveness. Katherine previously served as a core member of the financial officer practice at the firm, where she focused on talent, research, and recruitment of chief financial officers for clients in consumer, retail, and healthcare, and nonprofits. Katherine cares deeply about women's leadership, development, and ensuring women have a seat at the table. She assisted in Spencer Stuart Women in Finance events, has spearheaded research projects related to women in C-suite, and as a published author in academic journals on the topic of gender and leadership. Katherine is a proud alum of Florida State University, where she graduated in 2022 with a degree in psychology and media communication studies and a minor in business. During her time at Florida State, she served on the executive board of Dance Marathon as the student director of staff development for campus recreation, as an honors program colloquium leader, as a member of the Torchbearer 100, and was involved in Greek life. Katherine wholeheartedly believes she would not be where she is today without her opportunities at Florida State University. Miss Katherine, thank you for your time as well. All right, so now comes the part that we've all been waiting for, your questions. So our first question of today is, well, it's not really, yeah, tell us about your time at Florida State. What programs were you a part of? And either one of you can go first. It doesn't matter in what order.
You, Catherine.
Hi, so you gave such a wonderful introduction, Jamal, that I feel like I don't need to explain much more about my involvements, but you guys get the gist. But I really tried to max out my involvements at Florida State, and I feel like that's really shaped the leadership journey that I've been on today. And I think that's just the beauty of FSU too, is there's so many different organizations that you can get involved in, whether it's at a large scale or a small scale. So yes, definitely maxed out my time in dance marathon and the honors program and campus recreation and, you know, lots of different ways.
Thank you so much.
I think I kind of want to echo what Katherine said as far as, just trying to max out your time. I feel like there's a lot of opportunities sometimes when you're sitting thinking, what's the value add I can do today? So, I ran cross country and track, and wow, that kind of took up a whole lot of time. There were still opportunities that, could work out. I mean, I was able to do international programs one summer that didn't interfere, did another study abroad exchange program. So I would think that a big takeaway is that, even if you think, hey, as busy as things are from day to day, you can still find those opportunities to grow and develop. And Florida State offers so much.
Hey, thank you so much. I think you guys answered our second question as well. So we're going to go to this one. What lessons in leadership did you learn and that you still apply today?
Yeah, I can go first. So a couple of the bigger positions that come to mind that I had at FSU were the executive chair at Dance Marathon. So I led our community marathons program. And then I also was a leader at campus recreation overseeing the student staff. So I worked with a lot of people. I was kind of a people manager for all of those positions. And a big lesson I learned from that was that before you do any tasks as a leader, you really need to put the people first and taking care of yourself, taking care of the people on your team. So finding those human qualities before the tasks and leading with compassion first before anything else. So one way of doing that is by being a role model yourself for self-care and balance. So when you take on all of these leadership roles too, it's a lot on your plate and it can get overwhelming in combination with schoolwork and just a social life and all the other things you're doing. So by demonstrating to the people that you're leading that you're taking care of yourself too and managing your time and your self-care, being kind to yourself, filling up your own cup before you can fill up others, you're able to show up as a better leader in all of those scenarios. So I think that really does still apply to me today in the workforce too. And as I see leaders lead, really them taking care of themselves and leading with compassion and leading for the humans that they're working with.
Thank you so much. That was such a wonderful answer.
Yeah, I think that the example piece can't be overstated. There's so much. I mean, you'll learn a lot about different communication and how much is nonverbal and how much of what you say and how you message things matters. But we cannot forget that you are also the one that is footing that message. And so, different leadership opportunities I had. I was on the leadership council with student athletes, for male student athletes. And it was we had different speakers come through, and it was a great opportunity to not only really connect with people from different sports we necessarily would have gotten to see all the time, but just learning some of those deeper messages as far as how you can be that approachable leader. And that was kind of the real big takeaway, is that you have to be approachable in which you're delivering messages. We might have some tough messages to deliver as leaders at times, and it's really important to be practicing that all throughout, that you're making that example. There's definitely difficult things we all go through, and I feel like, especially as we lead teams and depending on the organization, there's going to be folks on your team that go through things that are completely unimaginable. And that's why, it's showing that self-care, like Katherine mentioned that I think that's such a big part of being a leader, is being, personable, developing those relationships, because those relationships are allow you to be successful.
Absolutely. I could agree more with both of you said. Of course, being in my leadership role, you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself. And I always tell people, if you don't take care of yourself, how can you take care of others? And so I'm very big on self-care. My friends will tell you, he's going to make sure the people are first, but once everyone else is taken care of, he's going to take care of himself. So thank you guys for that wonderful answer. Both wonderful, wonderful answers. So my next question would be, were there any mentors who helped you along the way? Any people that just really helped you get through it?
Yeah, this is where I would really touch on that mentorship can be both formal and informal. So I remember when I was a freshman and a sophomore and all the student organizations I was in, I really looked up to the juniors and seniors who held those highest level leadership positions. And even though they weren't formal mentors to me, I looked up to them as role models so much that they did serve as a mentor. So that's where the whole leading by example comes into, just by watching others, you really are looking up to people. So finding those informal mentors, who can you look up to, or maybe you're the one that people are looking up to as well as a leader. So finding that. And then also there are so many great opportunities for formal mentorship at FSU too. I was a part of the Society of Human Resources Management, and through that I had a mentor who was a professor at another university, and he was really helpful in advising me with my leadership journey and also how that related to my overall career journey as well. And also just staying close with your professors too. I had a professor, her name is
Yes.
Brittany. She still works at FSU, and I stayed in touch with her and was able to actually write for a academic journal after I graduated as well. So keeping those mentors throughout your career too is really helpful and something that you can find at FSU.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I think that a biggest piece for mentorship is really being deliberate in the process of seeking out mentors, whether they be, formal mentors or informal, as Katherine mentioned, people from peer group. I think that you never can have enough outside opinions. And it's really tough. We're never going to know the journey from where we're, sitting as a junior or senior, what that's going to look like. I mean, I certainly didn't think I'd be in the spot that I am now. And that takes that deliberate action of getting those outside experiences and insights in. When I was at FSU, I was fortunate enough to coach Brayman, who just retired over the summer, had been the track coach there for about 20 years, three-time national title winner. So just, I got to see what it looked like to really administer a program of a bunch of large personalities and different goals. And folks like me that were walk-ons all the way to, people going to the Olympics, and like, how do you, try to make a value add while still, mention the goals of, developing good student athletes, winning championships and that kind of thing. So I think that was definitely somebody great. Another person was Kathy Jones, who was an advisor in the athletic department when I was there. And that's something I definitely will plug, is there are a lot of opportunities with our advisors at FSU, the Career Center. Myrna Hoover was a great family friend who had been the director there a long time. I mean, I think that that's something really neat about being on a college campus, is that you have access to so many different resources. It could be probably a little overwhelming, but I think that's when it goes back to being deliberate and thinking today, what's something I can improve a little bit on, and who might be able to help and if I'm interested in a certain career path, who's somebody that may be able to connect. And I think that's going to be, we're talking about Seminole Club, so I'm definitely going to put a plug in for that, as you go out and start your careers, there's FSU, the brand matters a lot. Football might not be the best thing right now, but I feel like that is something that, you really can be deliberate in developing your network, which it honestly is a part of being, mentorship. I think developing the network is getting those ideas from people you wouldn't necessarily have them from if you hadn't tried. So I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that deliberate message.
Yes, you must be, like you said, deliberate in your mentors. You just don't want to have just anybody mentoring you, but you want to at least make sure that that person serves a purpose in your life so they can help you go further. I always tell my friends, I didn't get here by myself. I had people to help me. And so even while in college, don't be afraid to talk to people. Like Ms. Katherine said, talk to your professors. You don't know how they can come back in your life and benefit you, or you don't know how you could benefit them. So I always tell people, and like you said, you have to make the most of while you're in high school. I mean, in college, in high school too. I tell my peers that are younger than me that are still in high school, hey, when you're getting ready to go to college, try to network in high school too, because you don't never know who you're sitting next to. You never know who can help you along the way. So thank you guys for that, for your answers. So my next question, what was your experience like going from a student to an alumnus?
Yeah, great question. I just recently became an alumna a couple years ago. So for me, it's pretty fresh in my mind. And I think the transition at first was just hard, being honest, because I was involved with so much at Florida State and just built such a community. And going into the real world seems scary and daunting. But I hope all of you know that your time at Florida State really is preparing you so well for a great career trajectory, no matter what you decide to do. And even just getting involved on campus or showing up for things like this today, where you're staying connected to your school, to other people who are, on the same path as you, it's really helpful in that transition process to the real world. And like Jamal mentioned before, finding ways to stay in touch with your professors, maybe stay in touch with other people who are in your organizations right now, or just those role models and mentors you're finding on campus. How can you continue to build that community after you graduate? And if you're intentional about it, there's great ways that you can. And Florida State, as Tyler said as well, is such a great brand. So be proud of where you came from and just trust that you are getting the proper skills that you need in order to thrive in the real world.
My journey, I've been an alumni a little longer than Katherine, but I will say it's been really a remarkable experience the last couple of years because, for most of my career, I'm originally from Tallahassee. I moved to Central Florida. I wasn't ever too far away, so I was able to kind of stay within that network, and I was still coming back. Tallahassee fairly often, but within the last couple of years, I relocated with my wife to the Midwest, and I'm in St. Louis now. And when it comes to networking and then looking for potentially a new role or just developing around, I mean, I can't speak enough to what that network means and how you can really get the opportunity to meet folks you would never have met. I mean, I know we'll talk about the club here in a minute, but keep on going back to that. I mean, that's something that has really allowed me to meet some of my closest friends in the last couple of years that I wouldn't have gotten to know had I not had that. So I think that you got to look at, as you're looking for, starting your career, I think you got to leverage, that this Florida State connections and resources and shared experience to really help develop your network and, professionally, and also, as a, your personal network, because, it really is something and a connection and some shared values and experiences that, really can help you develop really deep relationships with folks very quickly. So I think that I would just say really leverage, that Florida State network and, and even folks that might have gone to that school in Gainesville or what have you, like, that's something you can talk about. And I don't think that, no matter what, I don't think there's ever been a job interview I've been on where, college or football doesn't come up or something. So it's a lot of shared experience I think is really important.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you. Ms. Lauren, you work in leadership consulting. Are there any top qualities that you notice in the leaders you work with?
Yeah, so I think that so just a little background on my job. So what I do is I mostly work in CEO succession. So I work with a lot of leaders who are in the C-suite at big and small companies. So kind of the upper level of leaders. So I get a really cool look into what it looks like to be a leader when you get to that final stage. So something that I've noticed is that imposter syndrome never goes away as a leader. So you might be thinking to yourself now as a college student, if you're in a position, like maybe you are scared that you're in it, or you don't feel qualified enough, or you just have doubts and questions, and they're probably not valid. You're probably doing an amazing job in whatever role you're in. But that doesn't go away once you become a CEO either, even though they're technically the most qualified in their company or in their field. They still are just as scared as we are at our age and level to lead. So just, I think, understanding that and knowing that kind of took a weight off my shoulders, that everyone always is scared, but they show up anyways, and just to be confident in yourself. But two main things that I've noticed are some top qualities. One is communication, and the other one is boundary setting. So these C-suite leaders are very good at communicating. So whether it's a presentation or talking to their staff, managing up, managing down, managing across, they're really skilled at communicating both orally and in written ways, and just having that presence that you look for in a leader. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that boundary setting. So there's only so much that you can take on as a leader. And a lot of times you want to be a yes man or a yes woman and just say yes to things that are coming at you and every opportunity that's being thrown out at you. But there's just not enough time in the day, and you need to learn how to delegate to others and to set boundaries for what you really can and can't take on. So for example, at FSU, if you are a leader in 6 different organizations, you likely cannot say yes to everything that is being asked of you in that position. So how can you set boundaries for yourself while, still being honorable to the commitment that you made, but also, what can you realistically do or not do? So I think those are the two things. So communicating effectively and setting boundaries.
Thank you so much. That was a really great answer. That's something that I'm learning as a leader now, how to delegate. Um, I sometimes consider myself a perfectionist and I want everything to be done right. And sometimes you're just like, and not doing it right. I got to do it myself. But delegation is something that you really have to do as a leader. Like you said, if you're involved in 6 different works, there's no way possible you're going to be able to say yes to everything. So I think that was a great point you mentioned. So hopefully, the leaders that are on here, are like us trying to, we're getting used to it. We're still fairly new to it, but learning how to, use the people that you have that have been elected along with you to make your load a little bit lighter. Okay. And now, Mr. Tyler, you work as the director of clinical operations at SSM Health. And through other leadership roles you've had, what are some qualities that you value in leaders?
Sure. So, I think communication is obviously key. I'm manage the heart and vascular service line for a large regional health system, specifically in, one metro area. But, having, had worked my entire career now in healthcare, you really do have to develop relationships and communicate and build a message across, kind of a breadth of human experience. And I like the idea of managing up and managing down because, you got to have a conversation with, a very experienced interventional cardiologist. I've also got to have a conversation with somebody who, maybe in a very different place from a socioeconomic and educational place. And I think that being able to develop those relationships and know, what is important for those folks, because, well, yes, you cannot do it all yourself. You do have to spend the time to develop those relationships because if you don't have some of that core understanding, it's really hard to get the message that you need to across. And just you need to be relatable. And I think that that's also a very key piece is that it's important to be honest, know when you have questions and ask folks. And you can definitely learn no matter if it's, and I like the idea of, the C-suite, that, they still have the same, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. I'm not, completely familiar with what this subject matter is. And they're willing to ask and kind of show that vulnerability because I think that leads back to being, an approachable leader. So, I think that that's something in a leadership role that has always really, stuck with me is that, not being willing to let people know when you're not quite sure on something. And especially like, I jumped into a service line that I wasn't super familiar with. There's a lot to learn. There's a long learning curve, a steep learning curve, excuse me. But I think that's kind of a nice challenge too. And figuring out, okay, you're not going to get the entire subject of, a difficult clinical matter, but what are the important pieces that I need to know to help inform the decision that I've got to make? And so I think that's the other piece is, when you're setting those boundaries, you got to be selective on, given subject, what's the most important things for me to know, what's going to help me make the best decision that I can. And then again, I think it's always the most important while outcomes are vital and, outputs for any organization to be healthy are extremely important. It doesn't happen without the people. So I think that keeping your people in mind, treating them well, being that relatable leader all kind of falls into place when you're trying to get to a shared goal.
Absolutely. Thank you both for their amazing answers. So it's really, really amazing answers. And so, how would you say FSU prepared you to advance in your careers?
Yeah, I can start. So I will start off by saying that when I started as a freshman at FSU, I had no idea what I wanted to do for a career. So I actually came in as a political science major and thought that I really wanted to go into government and do something related to that. But I quickly realized that I was really passionate about psychology and journalism and just really thinking about, what actually gets me excited to go to class or, what do I think about on the weekends and what really gets me stimulated. Those were the things that I was felt really drawn to. So I think a big thing that I took away from my time at FSU to help me prepare for my career was just to trust the process and not try to rush it or figure everything out right away. And as I reflect back now on my 4 years, I can really see kind of that invisible string that was leading me the whole time to find this career that fits so well for me. And part of that is because I just listened to myself and just what I was curious about. So, every few months I would ask myself, what am I really passionate about? Do I still want to do this activity? What else could I be doing to help me grow and to learn? And that's how I really got all of the leadership opportunities that I did, because I just found myself becoming more and more passionate in certain areas. And then the academics fell into place too. I found professors I really clicked with and subjects I really liked. And then by the time I got to senior year, I had a whole portfolio of things that I'd been working on that prepared me to take this career in leadership consulting. And then, of course, you have to do work your senior year to network and have those mentor relationships. But I think just a big lesson from my time in FSU is that there's so much available to you, and just keep asking yourself, what do I want to do? What can I take advantage of? What am I passionate about? And then just say yes to those opportunities that light you up, and trust that you will get to a place by the end of your 4 years or 5 years or however long you're there where you will feel ready to start your career.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think that the biggest piece that I gained from my experience at FSU is being curious. I started, I was from Tallahassee because of some family stuff. I knew I was going to attend Florida State, and it wasn't, I probably switched my major 4 times in the first 2 years, and I think that that being curious allowed me to look at different experiences and really realize. I mean, when you're on campus somewhere like Florida State, I mean, you have a shared experience with so many folks from so many different walks of life. I mean, it's an incredible institution, a top 20 public university, tier 1 research university that, the resources are, and I don't mean to be hyperbole on this, but like, you're going to have folks that might not ever get access to, those many kinds of diverse people that are just so bright and have so many different interests, in any of your life, that you're really going to have that opportunity in Florida State. So I'm not trying to, make it, too much a pressure filled thing, but, it's just a really unique time. And I think that, that was something that during my, journey from FSU, really allowed me to, to be prepared to look, for what opportunities are really going to be fulfilling. I assumed I was going to law school right after college, and went to a couple LSAT study sessions, and I'm like, this is not quite for me. And then I was able to parlay into doing a dual enrollment program with the Askew School of Public Policy, and go ahead and get my MPA straight out of undergrad, which was not necessarily a normal path of going about things. Typically, you might want to come back for your graduate degree, but allowed me to financially be able to get through it in a really good way. And then also, I just continue to develop my skill sets. And I'm too passionate about Florida State, probably because it's been such a huge part of my life. Both my parents went there, so much of my family. I think it's hard to overstate the opportunity, that the experience just being on campus and the exposure you're going to get. It's a really special place. And so, a lot of opportunity out there to develop. Just got to take it.
Thank you so much. That is so true. You literally can walk on campus, and I'm sure there's somewhere something that you can get involved with. They have flyers posted everywhere. So I really try to encourage people to, like you said, get involved. Like we were talking about earlier, you never know. You never know who you're going to be. You never know who you're going to be in an organization with. So I always encourage you to get involved. Thank you both for those wonderful, wonderful answers. So this kind of leads right into our next question. So what would you say have been your proudest moments in your leadership roles?
Yeah, it's hard for me because I feel like I don't reflect enough on the accomplishments that I have and, proud moments. So that's something I need to personally work on. But I think one of my favorite quotes is by Maya Angelou, and that it's, people will forget what you said, and people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And for
That's right.
me, as a leader, that's something that if I'm thinking of what am I proud of, it's that other people feel, that they felt respected from my leadership, or that they learned something, or that they had a safe place, or, that we just clicked as a team. So it's, how do other people feel? So when I think of being proud, that's what I think of. And there were a few times at FSU where, for example, when I was an honors colloquium leader, I had other students come back to me in future semesters and tell me that what I taught them, really helps them in their life and their time at FSU. So that made me feel proud. Or same thing with dance marathon. If some of you are involved in that, you know that we raised some numbers at the end of the year showing how much money we raised for Children's Miracle Network. So that was a proud moment, seeing my team raise those numbers and embrace each other and be so proud that we rallied around a common goal. So I would say just keep that quote in your mind. Just how am I making others feel as a leader? And if you're making other people feel good and safe and accepted, then you've done a great job and should be proud.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think that kind of the most proud moments that I've had, as a leader in my career so far has been some of the impact you've had on folks. I've been fortunate enough to, straight out of grad school, I worked as a skilled nursing home administrator, and not something I ever thought I would be getting into. But I think because of my experience at FSU, I was really prepared to, be able to relate and kind of get folks that are from a lot of backgrounds on the same page, and we were helping take care of some of the most frail and vulnerable adults in our state, and it was a really rewarding, difficult experience, going through the pandemic and managing through some really uncertain times. I've dealt with hurricane evacuations, and we had cyber attack on our medical record system, and then just there's some things that when you reflect back on that you're like, wow, how did we get through those? But I think that resiliency, and I think it's sometimes it's having maybe it's the best way to put it, kind of that short-term memory where you got to take the good, learn from the things that didn't go as well, and really try to put those back in place, because it's not going to do limitless good to dwell, and it's something I probably struggle with the most, is that you mistakes are going to happen, and it's just how you take those actions differently moving forward. So it's hard to think of necessarily that these most proud moments, but I think it's just the the impact you had on folks, and that that you made the best decision you could in difficult scenarios. I think that's the important thing to remember, is that take time to reflect, but you can't let be completely affected by outcomes of things that you really cannot change. Do what you can in the situation, but there's moments where you're gonna have to step back and know that I did what I could, and I'm not going to be able to impact this part of it. So what can I impact? And so I think that's the biggest piece, is looking at saying how can I impact things in the most positive way, and in that impact, what things do I need to do differently next time?
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you again, both. You guys are really amazing. Really good, really good. Like you said, I'm like you, Miss Catherine. Sometimes I do need to reflect on some of the things that I do too. A lot of people say, "Oh my God, you're so amazing." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And like, you don't remember? I'm like, because it just comes naturally to you. When it comes naturally, for you to do it, it's just like you don't really reflect on it. And so I'm like you, Miss Catherine. I gotta reflect too. So you can, you realize how much you really help people out. You don't really realize how much of an impact you have on people until they come back and be like, you don't really know, but you really helped me out. And I really think that's like one of my favorite parts about being a leader, hearing the feedback, the good along with the bad. As Mr. Tyler said, you have to take the good along with the bad and put it back in somewhere else, because it's always a lesson to be learned. So thank you for that. And so, what advice would you all give to students who want to enhance their leadership skills?
Yeah, I feel like a couple things here. One is that we typically think of leadership as a role or a position, but I also just want to highlight that you can be a leader no matter if you have a formal title or not.
That's
People
right.
still are looking up to you. You can still lead in your community without that title. So just keep that in mind too. But in terms of how to enhance leadership skills, I think that a really critical thing is going back to that imposter syndrome piece, is that you're going to be scared no matter what if you're showing up to have a role as a leader. So show up scared and don't be afraid to ask others for help, lean on others, don't feel like you need to take everything on your shoulders. If there's something you're struggling with, or you just have too much on your plate, lean on others who you trust in your community. Maybe it's on a team that you're on, or even just calling a family member or friend and using them as a person that you can talk to about and vent to if you need. So just having that person in your life or team in your life too. And also just doing the inner work and taking time to reflect. Like I mentioned earlier, I really try to take time every few months and just ask myself, is this something I'm passionate about? What can I do to improve? What am I learning from this? And just keep doing that self assessment. And then if you do that every few months, you will continue to learn and grow. And it's amazing to see, especially if you do something like a journal where you're writing this down and to reflect back and see how much you've actually grown in the course of 6 months or a year or 4 years. So I really encourage you to do that inner work and, whether it's writing it out or thinking it and just having that reflection, finding people you can lean on and just not being afraid to ask questions and show up scared.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I like the idea of leading where you are. And leadership does not have to be formal. It's about problem solving and working with a team to get the work done. But I think that as far as if you're looking to enhance your leadership skills, I think that's where being curious, getting out of your comfort zone, and having those conversations, because it's going to lead you to more ideas. It's going to lead you to thinking about opportunities you had never really considered before. And also, the more you have those conversations, the better that you can tell your story, and succinctly, kind of get across some of the points you want to get across. Because, again, focusing on, when you're looking to start your career and making transitions within a career, you have to know, how do you make it as easy as possible for the person that you're reaching out to help you. And being in that position, I think it really teaches you a lot about clarity in terms of, your purpose, what you want to get across. And then also, kind of on the flip side of that is, when folks reach out to you, it's so empowering to be able to help them. So I think that, that's something to always keep in mind, is as you are, reaching out into, developing a new skill or, networking for a potential opportunity, think of how you would have liked to have been responded to in that same scenario. Because, part of the, benefit of getting to a leadership position is that, folks are going to reach out and have questions, and you're going to be in a position to perhaps help folks, as a mentor and guide them or whatever that looks like. And I think that that's probably one of the best parts, is that you can, benefit folks like they benefited you. And I think that relationship, and it's not, saying it should just be transactional, but it is extremely fulfilling. And I think that that's part of the leadership journey. I think that is really important to remember, is that, you're going to be the one asking questions someday, or being asked questions of, and how would you like to develop to be the leader that can help somebody?
Thank you so much. Perfect answers. Perfect. I don't think there's no more to be said about that. You guys did amazing. Thank you both. Thank you. Mr. Tyler, you are one of the Alumni Association Seminole Club leaders. Could you tell us about the club and how you got involved in it?
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, is that, I'm, originally from Tallahassee, and I had never really moved, further than probably North Alabama from away. But I kind of joke, I kind of got tricked to my wife to relocate to the Midwest. And, I didn't have a lot of a big network of friends. I would, partially starting a new position. But just being able to reach out, social media, I think, randomly on Instagram one night, that ended up connecting with Kenneth Cangaletti, who was our president of our board at the time, and I'm big in the Young Alumni Association. And then Helena, who's now the president of our club, that just having that same passion. And you would never think that an area, again, in St. Louis, Missouri, that there would be this huge Seminole population. But really, there are a lot of folks that do, not only just care about sports teams, but just have at least experience of either being from the area, or remember, watching FSU, and if they, went to some other school. I mean, there is just a incredible ability to lend yourself to a network that you would never have had without that. So, we still meet, I mean, we've been watching the games even this season, and as recently as last weekend, I actually went up to Notre Dame for the game, which was not fun of a game, but the rest of it was great. And I connected with one of our club members who we were nowhere near each other at FSU, but we have all the shared experience, so we really had a great time going up there and connecting with some other friends. And so I think that's the biggest thing. It's an opportunity to lend yourself to a network you wouldn't have potentially any other way. And another great plug is if you're networking and maybe looking at an opportunity in a particular organization, keep in mind that LinkedIn search lets you see who from Florida State worked there. And there's nothing easier than kind of breaking the ice with somebody that, hey, remember FSU this, or again, even if they didn't go here, they know what the brand means. Other folks will, they might give you a tough time how the football team's doing, but that's an intro to somebody that, again, you don't really have to do a lot of explaining of, and I think that's such a great thing. So, being a part of the club association, and we've been place now barely 3 years, and it's amazing what we've grown to, and I've met some just really deep personal connections that I wouldn't have without it.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. Wonderful answer. Miss Katherine, you were recently featured as an alumni spotlight on the Friends of HSF Instagram and newsletter. What motivates you to stay engaged with FSU?
Yeah, so I think a little bit differently than Tyler. So I'm in California in San Francisco, so pretty far also from Florida. Yes. And from FSU. So it's harder for me to come back to campus and to stay involved in that way. But I've actually had to share a lot about Florida State to new people and kind of be a brand ambassador, because there aren't as many FSU, let's say FSU fans or FSU alums who are in California. So I always get so excited if I see someone on the street who's wearing a Florida State shirt or hat, or if I hear someone talk about FSU. So I've had to kind of play a different role of advocating for Florida State and sharing what makes Florida State so special. But what really motivates me to stay involved and engaged is I see through my job now the power of those connections that we were just talking about too, and just how important it is through any stage of your career to really stay connected to your alma mater and just the people who are in it as well and who graduate from Florida State, because you never know at what stage in your career someone who went to Florida State might be someone who could connect you to a new person who might get you a new job, who knows what might happen. So the only way to do that is by staying engaged with FSU and staying involved, and really continuing also to just give back to the community that has given you so much. So that's motivating to me too.
Thank you so much. That was good. Yes, I tell you all the time. Even my friends that are graduating from high school, I always tell them to give back to your community, give back to the people that poured into you. Going back to the mentors, you never really know who you're helping. You don't know. Maybe one day the person you're helping now, maybe a doctor, or you may need a job. And FSU has people everywhere, literally everywhere. My time in Upper Bound was amazing. I'll never forget, we were in Atlanta and we had on our FSU Upper Bound shirts, and there were a group of cars. They're just blowing their horn. They're like, "Oh my God, there's the football team." We're like, "No, we're not the football team." But they're like, "We love the Seminoles." And so I always tell people, FSU has people everywhere. You could literally, I don't think you can go anywhere around the country and not run into at least somebody that knows about it or has attended or some way connected with FSU. So I tell my friends, I'm staying engaged. As soon as I graduate, you can count on me. I'm going to be sending my monies because I want to support the school that supported me. So thank you for that. And our final question for the both of you: what are some more ways that you stay connected with FSU?
I think for me, a couple things. So one is, since I am a young alum, I do have people who, were students in the class that I taught who still go to Florida State, or my sister is actually getting her master's degree at Florida State right now. So I try to stay involved and talk and stay in communication with people who I went to school with. But also, when you graduate and you're a member of organizations or clubs, like doing things like this, for example, participating in the panel with honors or with dance marathon, I still stay involved as an active alum participant and raise money each year. And when people reach out to me who are in my past leadership position, I offer them advice and try to give them, feedback and support and celebration. So just all the things that you are passionate about as a student, you don't have to get rid of them or never participate in any of them again. There's definitely ways to continue to support and stay involved as an alum. So I would definitely encourage that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, first off, definitely, as you're moving to a new city or potentially looking at something, check out their Seminole Club page, see if they've got a chapter nearby. Definitely a big plug for that. But I can't say enough that the shared identity that you've gotten developed from some of those experiences and going to Landis Green and going to Stroger and Dippin' Bar, whatever it looks like. Plug if you've ever need a really cool place to study, the special collections area of Stroger was always an awesome place if you needed somewhere quiet to go. So just a random thought, but I think that you can't say that enough that that shared identity is going to open so many doors for you and make a lot of conversations easy. And downside of Tallahassee is it's pretty geographically isolated. It's not the easiest place to get to, but even if it's not coming home necessarily, if you're not able to give the time in that manner, being able to do things with your local organization or using that as a way to network into different opportunities, I think is just super, super key. So, I think that, it's important to remember that, it's not all about just coming back for homecoming. Well, it's great. Definitely encourage everybody to do as much as you can come back. But it's what does other opportunities look like and how can you stay close to those people that you knew at your time at Florida State? I actually went to the game in Dublin with some guys that I hadn't seen probably 10 years that I ran cross country with. And, I was like, when else would I have ever connected with some of these folks? And so I just think of that as examples of, football teams can hopefully get better. And, it's just, even outside of game watches and all that stuff, there's just so much opportunity to reconnect with a really close group of folks that you have this shared experience that you just can't replicate.
Thank you. I keep telling people, I keep telling my friends, I keep telling them there is no place like Florida State University. There is no place like Florida State. And so thank you again. This is all I have for you guys. You guys were great. Thank you again for allowing me to serve as your host. And you guys are really great. And I hope and wish you all the best and success in the rest of your careers. Ms. JC?
We do have some Q&A. So the first one is, you kind of already touched on this, but maybe you'd like to expand. What was one of your involvements that taught you certain skills that you found useful in your career?
I think for me, one of the things was when I was on the executive board of Dance Marathon, it was during COVID. So COVID happened, everything shut down on campus and everything moved virtual. So in a leadership position like that, I really had to learn how to keep my team engaged virtually and check in on them and learn how to do one-on-one meetings and make it fun and make it interactive and still rally people around a goal when we couldn't meet in person and we couldn't lean on each other in that way. So I think that's something that now has really still been a lesson for me and stuck with me is we really are navigating a very hybrid and virtual workforce now. And some of us have fully in-person jobs, but some of us are fully remote. So how can you be a leader and a great team member virtually? So I think that's an involvement and a skill that I've learned and would encourage all of you to continue building as well and finding ways to lead and to learn virtually because it's not going anywhere in our world and in our workforce.
I think the one experience, really great plug for the international programs at FSU that, I did a study abroad in Istanbul this summer for my senior year. And it just, that shared experience, some of the people that I met, just really, I think helped prepared me just to, know some individuals from background that I probably wouldn't have gotten exposed to had I not done something like that. And it's also, as you're networking, talking to people, you never realize how much, other people have the similar experiences. And so that's why I think that, it can look kind of daunting. It's like, how am I, from a, the time, either cost perspective in terms of time and expense, how would I do an experience like this? I mean, it's important to look at and see if you can't make something happen with it, because I think that was a particular experience and exposure to different cultures and adapting to new learning curves that I think has really helped me. And it's a very it's definitely a very global world, and then chances are you're going to work with somebody from a very different background. You may be traveling internationally, and I feel like that exposure in your college is just really valuable.
Perfect. And then someone asked, did you find it easy to stay connected with FSU as an alumni?
I think we touched a lot on these connection pieces, but just kind of wrap it up again. I do think it was easy, but I had to, put in intentional effort in order to do so. So, like I said, being in California, it's not as easy to just, drive to campus or stay connected in that way. But if you do use your resources, I reached out to professors, I tried to stay in touch with my organizations, even if it's, every 6 months, you send a brief check-in on email or connect with people on LinkedIn, like use social media, use the resources you have, and just put in that little bit of effort to stay connected.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to be intentional. There's some effort involved, but I think we've done, a good degree about the just the benefits of doing so. And especially, as you're essentially moving to a new area, I just can't say enough. Look up, see if there's a local alumni network, and I think that as you're developing those connections, it's kind of funny because you end up, feel like everything about somebody, because you have this, shared connection that is such a big piece of your formation. That you got to realize folks have lives outside of Florida State too. But I think that it's still such a great way to get connected that you'll definitely get a return on the investment. But you're going to have to make some of the investment on your own part.
Great. And for those of you tuning in, I did put a couple of links in the chat if you're interested in learning more about Seminole Clubs or our affinity networks or events that we're hosting. Feel free to check that out. And then we had two questions come in that kind of work together. So the first one is, did you do an internship as a student? And then how do you have a voice as an intern? If you're seen as like just the intern, how do you really lead from that position?
Those are two really great questions. And I will start by saying that no, I did not have an internship as a student. And that's something that I was actually very self-conscious about going into the career search process, because I'd heard so much about everyone saying you need an internship in order to get a job. And I did have jobs on campus. So like I worked over the summer for Campus Rec and for Dance Marathon. I had a lot going on. So I had a lot going on over the summer. It wasn't like I was sitting around doing nothing, but just having that title of intern was something I didn't have and felt self-conscious about. So I think going to the second part of your question, which was, how can you have a voice as an intern and not be just an intern? It's really all about how you show up and what you say yes to. So you can easily show up to an office or a virtual internship and be just the intern if you don't really try to use your voice and be confident in your voice and say yes to opportunities and go out of your way, again, with that intentional effort, trying to meet people who you're working with, or doing something a little extra on a project, or just sharing, what makes you special and what you can offer to that role and that program. And I've seen from the interns who are at my company and who have done that as well, that, by the time they leave at the end of the summer, they are so well respected and loved and valued as people who are offering insights to the company and the contributions they've done. So you definitely do not have to be just an intern, and interns, no matter what, are just very valued at companies. So if that's something you do decide to do, just speak up, be confident, make a name for yourself, and you never know what will come of it.
I was fortunate as I was getting started on my graduate program. I got a graduate assistantship position at the ticket office, the athletics ticket office. which it was nice in the sense that it provided some tuition assistance, and also you got some professional experience, and also kind of got me an idea of what the alumni network can represent. I kind of figured out pretty early on that I didn't necessarily want to work in athletics as a career, but it did expose me to individuals from the boosters organization, and different things that I wouldn't have ordinarily gotten the opportunity to get exposed to. So I think when it comes to how do you lead as an intern, or that I think it's about that abundance mindset, and that even if this is not necessarily the formal path in terms of what you're interested in and what you think you can really contribute, there's always something you can participate in. And I think that that's the part that I really enjoyed, is that I was able to develop networks that I remember keeping a spreadsheet in my desk as I was talking to somebody handling their football tickets, thinking, where do you work, just as a way to kind of think of oh, that might be something I could ask about, or how do I connect with you outside of that. So I think that opportunity, the mindset of abundance, of like how can I there's always something that we're going to be able to connect on, and something that that potentially could benefit you personally, or that you could help benefit that person with. So I think that it's not being scared and being willing to come out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and just one more thing I also just thought of to add is that all of you are, in Gen Z, and as Gen Z, we actually have a lot of knowledge that we can share and offer that maybe others don't actually know as much as we do, and we don't realize how much we know in certain areas. For example, about social media and marketing and trends and things that we really can offer to potentially older colleagues as an intern or as a new worker. So I would encourage you to just kind of trust and lean into that too, that you have skills that maybe others at the company or where you're interning or working don't have. So just be confident in what you can offer and speak up and use that voice too.
Perfect. And then someone asked, do you listen to any leadership podcasts or follow any famous leaders on Instagram or LinkedIn?
I do. I actually am such a nerd in this area. If you can't tell, I'm kind of obsessed with leadership as a whole. So, yes, one who I really love is Brene Brown. I think that she has really insightful thoughts about leadership and showing up with vulnerability and authenticity as a leader, and kind of those soft skills around leadership as well, which are so crucial. So, I definitely would recommend checking out her TED Talks and podcasts and books. And then there's other ones as well, such as Adam Grant, or even just looking at specific companies that you might admire and looking at their leaders. And a lot of them have books or podcasts or things that you can consume as well. So just play around with it. And there's so much content out there, and really just find a couple people that really speak to you and you admire their leadership skills, and try to see what you can do to emulate that and learn from them.
Well, I'm proud millennial, so I was able to actually overlap with Coach Bowden for 2 years when I was in school. So that was kind of neat, So I loved, going back and reading the stories about that journey, and what he meant to Tallahassee and Florida State. But I think that there's a wealth of materials out there, and I'm a bit of a history nut, so I kind of like to hey, so much nonfiction stuff out there that you can Spotify Premium does a great job of being able to connect to audiobooks now, and so I think that especially if you're traveling a lot, yeah, do a good bit of driving. There's a lot of resources out there that you can get interested in a lot of things, and I think there's nothing more important than exposing yourself to new information and developing new skill sets, and so that's something that I really enjoy doing. So I would say be explorative, find something you're interested in, and really dive in.
Great. Well, that concludes our session. Thank you both for speaking about your leadership experience. Thank you, Jamal, for moderating. Thank you, audience, for tuning in. Make sure you check out your email. You'll get an email with a survey link. Tell us how we did. Give us some new ideas for the next sessions. But that's it. So have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Bye.
Take care.